Now I want to talk about the 88 and the 89 Niners, seasons. The 88, 89 Niners, two of some of the most greatest teams ever. I'm not going to go too much into the regular season. I think 15-1, and then obviously I want to talk about the Super Bowls specifically with the two Super Bowl MVPs from both of those squads. So the 88 Niners season, they'd actually had been, I believe, 4 years removed from making the Super Bowl. They'd made the NFC Championship game and they lost, I believe. Am I mistaken? All right, 86, maybe. But essentially, Joe Montana was also injured, I believe, 86. So they had ups and downs, and ultimately for me, I think the 88 Niners, they had a great run, getting to the Super Bowl, playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and essentially proving why they were the team of the 80s at that point in time. Because up to that point, there were many other teams winning Super Bowls in the NFC. You had the Redskins, who had already won 2 up to that point. You had the Giants, who had just won 1 the year prior to the year the Redskins winning, the year prior. And then you also had the Bears, the 85 Bears, who I talked about yesterday. So NFC was basically duking it out for all the Super Bowls in the 80s. And so the Niners were, trying to, no one was questioning whether or not Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback, but I really feel like the 88 season and that run solidified it because of that Super Bowl. So let's talk about that Super Bowl, right? Super Bowl was Super Bowl 23 against the Cincinnati Bengals. The team that just made the Super Bowl this past year, right? And, it was just one of those games where, the Bengals, they had a lead. Boomer Esiason was coming off an MVP season. And, the Niners were coming in hot. The Bengals were coming in hot. The Niners were basically, still a couple years removed. But, what Joe Montana proved in this game why he was the greatest quarterback of all time, because he was able to prove, and late in the fourth quarter, when they were down, he made the clutch throw to Jerry, made the clutch throw to John Taylor for the touchdown. And, they came back and he was hyperventilating on that play. If you don't recall, if you've seen films of that, Bill Walsh was saying, Joe was hyperventilating. He was calling for timeout multiple times and Bill waved him off both times, but he didn't know he was hyperventilating, right? So, it was one of those things where, it was the season and obviously the run, the season as well as the postseason run, were historic. Jerry Rice obviously was runner-up for MVP. If I'm not mistaken, was 88, 87. One of the years, either that year or the season prior, he was running for MVP. But he was able to solidify that with a spectacular performance in the Super Bowl and setting records for receiving receptions and win Super Bowl MVP. I believe was there a wide receiver who won Super Bowl MVP prior to that? Maybe Lynn Swan. I can't recall. But yeah, essentially Jerry Rice, was, I believe, the only receiver of the 80s to have won Super Bowl MVP. But anyways, that was great. And then the 89 Niners, right? They, great, coming back, this was up to that point, up until the 89 season, the only team who was able to pull off back-to-back Super Bowl runs were the Pittsburgh Steelers and Terry Bradshaw and Chuck Noll. And they relied on Steel Curtain defense, mean Joe Green, right? And so 74, 75, and then 78, 79, they 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, the first team to ever do it. This was the Niners. This was the Niners' 4th. They were attempting their 4th Super Bowl in 8 seasons, from 82 to 89, or 7 seasons, I guess, however which way you want to classify. I say 8. And then basically, it materialized them reaching to the Super Bowl at Super Bowl 24, and then playing the Denver Broncos with John Elway, the MVP a couple years prior. And ultimately, it was pure domination, 55-10. Set the records for most points scored in a Super Bowl. There's a 4-0 right there, which from Joe. Joe, obviously, being the second quarterback to win 4 Super Bowls. Second quarterback to go 4-0. And the first quarterback to win 3 Super Bowl MVPs. So, and he capped it off with an MVP run that year, and he won MVP the following season as well, 1990. So the Super Bowl was played January 1990. I was born a few months after that. So, it's remarkable to see and think about, how well oiled and how I guess from an execution perspective, how well run schematically the Niners were with the West Coast offense and the defense during the 80s, right? Obviously, the rules were different. You could murder receivers, you could murder the quarterbacks, right? So it's almost a little bit more impressive if you really think about it, how they're able to win 4 Super Bowls within 8 years. Not to take away from different, and the game was so different in terms of kind of how physical it was, because the fact we didn't have the information, like I referenced on my last episode about Dwight Clark, God rest his soul, about concussions, right? So ultimately, the game was a lot more physical. Receivers could get murdered, quarterbacks could get murdered, running backs could get murdered, defensive backs could do whatever they want, So, I mean, I just really feel like it was so remarkable to see how the Niners were able to do what they were able to do during the 80s, from 82 to 89, 90, win 4 Super Bowls in 8 years. And, obviously do it in spectacular fashion while breaking numerous records, setting numerous records, for points scored, season-wise, touchdowns in the season. Or actually, I don't know if they offensively set that record, but in the Super Bowl, setting the record for largest margin of defeat over the Denver Broncos and most points scored in the Super Bowl. So the Cowboys almost broke that record a few years later, but Leon Lett had that fumble. So thank you, Leon, for that play. And I think there was 52 points over the Bills, so they almost broke the Niners record. Was it Super Bowl 27, Super 28? I can't remember, anyways. But yeah, I mean, so it was the Niners obviously went on to go prove their worth, prove themselves as the team of the 80s, the dynasty of the 80s, and Joe and Jerry obviously proved themselves as the greatest of their respective positions at that time. Obviously, Joe has since been usurped by Tom Brady. But if you ask a lot of Niners fans, they will say for various reasons why they still pick Joe over Brady. Joe Montana still holds the record for highest QB rating in the Super Bowl. He's highest 127.8 rate, I believe, passer rating in Super Bowl. In Super Bowl, I think, in Super Bowl history. And most passes thrown without interception, 11-0 touchdown to INT ratio in the Super Bowl. As well as he still shares the record for most touchdowns in a postseason with 11 with Eli Manning, who tied his record in 2011. So said, considered to be the greatest receiver and greatest NFL player of all time by many accounts, arguably, right? Tom Brady obviously is in that discussion, Jim Brown, but it's really remarkable to see how they were able to thrive, how the West Coast offense again change and revolutionize the NFL. Dwight Clark coming in, and then obviously, the 84, the 81, the 84 teams being one of the greatest teams ever. And then obviously the 88, 89 teams, kind of capitalizing on that success. And I think it was great to see. And, hopefully Niners can do some more magic this year. We'll see what happens with Trey and Jimmy. There's a chance that, I don't know there's more rumors about where Jimmy's going. So anyways, that's all for the recap, 88, 89 Niners. I also forgot to mention some of the other role players on the team, such as Bill Romanowski, not really a role player, but starting linebacker, Matt Millen. These guys were able to win 4 rings as well, not with the Niners, but 2 with the Niners and 2 elsewhere. Guys who won with the Niners, the 4 rings: Keena Turner, Ronnie Lott, many others. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this little episode. I think the 88, 89 Niners teams were some of the best teams ever. They could stack up against many other teams, in their era, and obviously the many other teams today. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.